Alright, g'day. Welcome to another post-match analysis of a series. This one is between Complexity and the newly named Optic Gaming. So this is the grand final. The grand final? Yeah, I think this is the grand final of the Starladder qualifiers, which is a minor tournament, not the major. Uh, Yeah, so it's best of three, and to give you a spoiler here, assuming you will already have known the results, they've been out for less than a week now. Um, it's a 2-0 to Complexity. I think most people would have thought it was going to be a 2-1 kind of series going either way. So to have a 2-0 is pretty interesting. So Optic is a pretty new team, but with some very experienced squad members. The only one who hasn't had years of Tier 1 involvement is CCNC, the young 9K superstar from North America. So Complexity don't need much of an introduction themselves. This current iteration is looking pretty strong. Limp is one of those players that has been around a few times, but hasn't been a bit of a journeyman, but hasn't quite found a team where he can excel. And in this team, he looks to have found it. He certainly looks to have found it under the Carl and Zfreek supporting duo. So I'm going to go through each of the two games, and not going to watch the entire thing. What I want to do is point out the important things as we go. Now, the last time I did this, I averaged about an hour per game, so I want to cut that down to maybe half an hour max each game, ideally. But we'll see how we go. Those games previously were more like 45 minutes for the hour. So these games at about 30 minutes each will probably, if we can get them in 20 minutes each actually, maybe with 5 minutes pre and post and between, that'd be good. So, into the draft. Some interesting things to point out. We're just going to fast forward a lot of this. Complexity ban, basically they target pike out the entire draft in both games. They don't waste any bans on anybody else. Banning straight up meta heroes, ban the Necro, ban the Veno. Whereas PPD focuses a lot more on banning supports. So there's reasons for that. You'd probably have to ask the captains, honestly. That was a complex game. Whether that comes down to their individual styles or what they see in their individual opponents here. But yeah, so immediately it's worth slowing it down a little bit here and pointing out how it's gone so far. And we have the IO Tiny combo straight up from Complexity. It's now an IO Tiny team, as it is. And PPD has probably come into this expecting it, knowing it, and planned for it. So the Spirit Breaker and the IO you would see then are his answers to that. The Ancient Apparition, very good against the healing. It's got Global Presence. Magic Amp, fantastic for blowing up that IO. And Spirit Breaker as well, fantastic for getting on top of the IO. Also, really good Global Presence, can contribute to a mid lane. And speaking of mid lanes, we've got PPD's answer to the mid. It's the Razor. Answer to the mid Tiny. Razor with Static Link and roaming Spirit Breaker. So this is the combo that they think is going to win the lane and win the game for them. So we're gonna fast forward a little bit through the draft now. That's basically set the tone for it. As you can see, more carry bans and ban the PL because you just don't want to play into a PL as Razor. And a Darkseer pick, and I'm not entirely sure why why the replay does that. Replays do funny things in Dota sometimes. But anyway, so the Sentinel pick, the Darkseer pick you can understand. Surge is pretty good for Razor here. Strong early game hero, good combination with Spirit Breaker. Good anti-carry a little bit as well with the wall. Sets up some team fight, good play. Centaur, I think, is a really exceptional pick for counterplay into that. And you can see now that Complexity have got their full lineup out. It's worth discussing. The global mobility and the mobility in general that they have. So the global mobility comes from the IO with Relocate. It comes from the Centaur Wall Runner with Stampede. So right that between those two abilities, they can have Tiny and IO be anywhere in the map that they want on an instant notice. Well, 2 seconds, whatever. And Centaur Wall Runner, at an instant's notice, they can have their entire team be running at 650, whatever it is, movement speed. So Pikecat, the counter pick into that mobility is Bloodseeker. If you can't run, where's your mobility gone? So that's the basic thought. So I think at this point, when they picked the Bloodseeker, it was supposed to be they were anticipating Kyle to be laning top, and it was a solo move. That's not the case. Complexity don't go greedy here, and it's a really, really important point. They don't pick another semi carry or hard carry as the Bloodseeker and Razor kind of are. They're both carries basically. The Razor is will lane from the mid, but make no mistake about it, it is a position 1 hero, and as is the Tiny. So Complexity, I think, have a more well-rounded lineup. With the 1 being the Tiny, and the 2 and the 3 kind of interchangeable between the Centaur and the Puck, whereas Pikecat and Razor are both. There are ways to build each hero adjustingly. I don't want to be too rigid about it, but that's the point I want to make. And especially Pikecat goes, I think, Midas Radiance BKB, so he does not play a utility role as Chessie will be doing. Anyway, so get back to the main point I wanted to make. Complexity do not go greedy. Both teams really want to win the lanes. They want to win the lanes, and then they want to establish map control. PPD wants to shut down split pushing with the Spirit Breaker and the Ancient Apparition global presence, while Complexity want to do the exact same with the threat of the relocate, and the threat of the Puck gangs with the Stampede. So they're actually relatively similar overall strategies, but the individual tactics and the heroes are different. So the only other point I want to make about the draft, or the lanes at least, or at this stage of the draft, is, and you'll see this as it goes through, Optic Gaming, the Dire as named here, actually playing Radiant, don't actually have a way. They've got heroes who shut down split push, but they don't necessarily have a way to split push themselves. And Complexity don't really either. They don't have a traditional split pusher, but they've got, as you'll see, a mobile puck, evasive puck, and a more natural split with their team because of the IO and what he can do. So as far as the laning stage goes, next game we'll pay attention to it a lot more because it's more important. But this game, there's only a little bit I want to show because it's basically a very even trade for the first 10 minutes. The big lane that both teams want to win is mid lane. It's a 2 vs 2. So I'm going to show the first 2 minutes of that. It's 1.5 or so speed. Not sure, don't remember why they're pausing. Come on boys. Don't have all day. Oh shit. Alright. So I haven't missed too much here. Yeah, look, so you'll see already, you know, level 1 at least, the power is with Optic in the mid lane here. There's not a lot of aggressive potential from either team, unless the other one egregiously overplays his hand. You know, it's very hard to other teams to really get into it. So CCNC level 2 now. Misery has shown bot because he needs to help out his Bloodseeker, who's getting possibly unexpectedly dual laned. Kyle has gone bot with the Centaur to just be a thorn in the side. So I'll zoom in a little bit. I tend to zoom out when I'm spectating a lot, but this is the only point really in the lanes that gets anywhere. Well, that is. Yeah, this is the only point in the lanes that is a bit of X factor. So you could see before the last hits, CCNC is pretty much dominating the mid lane here. I think Limp was 5 or less high last hits. CCNC just as many denies as Limp last hits, and then a little bit goes their favour, and that's a deadly combination of Zfreek and Limp. Really good coordination. Anytime Misery is not there. It's alright, so we're going to skip forward quite a lot here. So until 6 minutes or so. Until 6 minutes. I think this Bloodseeker death is when it shows. So it's pretty even, as you can see. Just trading. Except bot lane gets really hard. I'm going to pause you to show where the supports of Optic are. So PPD kind of left bot, as did Misery. And this is... It's hard to say with the hero, but Bloodseeker, if you want to get on top, the way to deal with the Bloodseeker as a carry is you want to get on top of him early. And that's literally and metaphorically. So Centaur does both. Yeah, gets on top of him, gets a stomp, and with the sustain from Kyle Warlock, it's a really obnoxious lane to deal with for Pycat. So at this point, Optic are doing fine, but Pycat struggling, and that's the point I want to make. I think, yeah, that's all we're going to show with that. We'll skip a minute or two ahead. Yeah, so I think, yeah, this is when Zfreek gets his level 6, things, a few more things happen. So again, I think it's just before they have an engagement mid. It's pretty even. As you can still see, it's pretty even. This lane, CSNC wanted it to go a bit better. If the early 2 minutes had gone better, maybe it would have been better for him at 9 minutes. But it's just been a real trade top. There's a few more denies by virtue of being a ranged hero. Soul Ring first build did well to deal with the Dark Sour. And bot lane, now the lane is really hard for Pycat. So he's forced into the jungle and lost a lot of momentum. Importantly as a Bloodseeker. So there's a nice ward on this area. PPD was good like that. Right, so they don't actually go on him right now. But something. It's here. Right. So I'll just replay that. So Misery doesn't want to go too deep, cancels the charge, and gets a little bit punished. It's a bit of a start where really good patience from Complexity. And up here as well, I'll show you this. I wanted to show you the other gank first, because it's the context for this. So the exact kind of same thing. The good patience from Complexity. They've got very good counter ganking team. And a little bit of impatience from Optic Gaming has the momentum swinging to Complexity. And both teams wanting to really valuing that early momentum to their strategy. It's very important that those things go well. So again, Pycat really getting pressured bot. Anytime he walks up, he just gets bullied. So anyway, I think that might be a yeah. So Moo's gone the pipe first or the hood first, and he's just gonna be really annoying to the enemy team. So Relocate comes out. It's 10 minutes. Zfreek has level 6, and it's a 1-for-1 trade. Both offlaners each gone. So at this point, after that 1-for-1 trade on both offlaners, 4 heroes from Optic have TP'd bot, or at least 3 TP'd, and no, 4 TP'd because Blood Hero was originally here, and DS TP'd. So anyway, to do anything, to have any aggressive potential on Complexity, they had to go to bot lane, and they had to bring almost all the heroes, or at least they did anyway. So if you look at what Complexity are doing for this 1 hero trade, they're farming on Warlock top lane. Limp and Zfreek are immediately back to mid. Chessie has gone back after farming top to get his Blink Dagger. So Complexity immediately getting a lot more out of it, and that's just one example of how the game just kind of goes. These map maneuvers are just much easier with the IO for Complexity to get things done. So after this gank, you just see it's just really inefficient for an entire team to walk one direction or TP one direction and then walk in a different direction. So it's worthwhile now to point out that Kyle is about to die here to an Ion Shell on level 6 Spirit Breaker. Pretty deadly. There's no relocate up for another 35. Otherwise, these two would be right out there right now. But that's intentional for. It's not intentional feeding. I don't mean to make that point. It's an intentional risk that Kyle has taken here, that Swindles has taken. He's deliberately given himself a lot of farm by going to the exposed lane, and at this time in the game, your own safe lane is the most exposed lane for various reasons. I won't go into that, but he's taken the dangerous lane. Like, this is actually the safe kind of area for Complexity, because I don't want to get dragged into that, but it's not safe down here for Pycat, for example. So it's also quite ballsy for Limp to be making this play. He doesn't even have his Blink Dagger, but the initiation he gets onto Misery here is really sick. And the reason that this fight works out for Complexity is because of this initiation. And they do this. If I can show you the fog from Radiant perspective, Zai is just in an awkward position very far from his team here. Misery, on the other hand, is super aggressive, so a bit of a disconnect between new teammates there perhaps. So from the fog, Limp goes in, 2 TPs immediately come out, Warlock's already in position. CC Razor a long way from Zai, and they're very vulnerable. So it's already 1 down. I'll continue showing this fight in slow-mo because it's much easier to see. 2 down for So 2 down for Optic. Now the Rupture comes out on limp. AA Blast comes out on limp. And that's at least something in return for Optic Gaming. And now Pykat's super out of position, Golem down. And all the while, there's no TP. I'm not entirely sure of the TP status of Moo right now, but he can contribute or even still because he's got Stampede. So that's another thing in action. I think I'm going to replay the Stampede to show you that impact. 10 seconds before. Yep, so they go in, Stampede comes out, and this enables Tiny to get away in the first place. It's just unfortunate for him that he goes back in, because he doesn't get the Darkseer here. He doesn't see the Bloodseeker walk up. But anyway, Tiny dying is not all bad, because the Bloodseeker dies with him. As we'll see here. Pretty unfortunate. An Urn, a Shadow Ward, and a Warlock hitting him is pretty strong. But again, it's still a 2-for-1 trade. Moo's getting a lot of farm individually. Yes, there was a tower going down top that PPD actually got, the cheeky bugger. But Cole got more out of it. That's the point they're making now. They're starting to pull away just a little bit, and that advantage is mainly the difference between you would say Chessie and Pykat as the twos for their team. It was actually a 3-for-1 I've written down here. So yeah, it was it was CCNC and Misery and Pykat dying just for a Tiny. So that's again, you know, Cole are able to do this 4v5. They're just really strong teamwork. So we're gonna fast forward a little bit to around 13 when I can show you. It's already 13. So I show you what's happening here. So really nice ward. This is the reason why you know, your own safe lane, your own jungle is not safe, because the enemy is so common to put down wards like this. You know, the Mask of Madness active CNC is not safe. You know, the relocate wasn't necessary in the end. You know, didn't even have to commit Dream Coil. So it's just a good pick. Yeah, a good pick off. Now, ooh, it was a really good point there. Actually, I want to show you the map before that little gank. I'll show you the map as nah, it's not really. It's not. Go into it in a second. Yeah, here we go. So, the map as it is for Optic versus the map as it is for Complexity. So Optic are kind of as 4, with one hero very tentatively split pushing, but you know, Zard's not even getting XP for this, so it's pretty rough compared to the quality of farming that Complexity's a lone hero is getting. A pretty big difference. So this is more about what Cole's doing, because they do it in game 2, and it's just a really interesting, very strong way of distributing the map and pressuring the opponent. So it's basically, you call it the basic formation, I'd say, I'll use the word formation, is a 2-2-1. And at the moment, Kyle is the 1. He will become one of the 2s after he gets his Midas and Arcanes, basically. So at this point, he's just he's an expendable piece, which is really important. The 1 for Complexity is something of an expendable piece, willing to take a risk. So if Kyle dies, yeah, that's fine. Warlock dies, whatever. Not detrimental to objectives, not detrimental to the farm progression of Complexity as a whole. However, if he doesn't die and he gets farm, that's great. They've got a highly leveled, highly you know, very strong Warlock. So he's the 1 taking the expendable the expendable one taking the dangerous farm. He will be replaced at some stage by Mu as the very hard to kill guy, who can contribute from afar. You know, Spectre is a similar hero. The twos now, the 2-2-1. One of the twos is always Zfreek and Tiny as the Tiny O for fairly self-evident reasons, and the other two is what we call the aggressive, strong cores here. So this, between these two, and because I think there's a Blink Dagger on Puck already, Mu's job this game isn't himself being the initiator, is more of a follow-up, so he gets a Blink Dagger later on. And that's fine, I think that's good itemization. He's just built to be tanky, so he can stand up to this bot lane and push it in and force the issue. And if the other team gank him, as you saw down here, they're going to pay for it. It takes him a long time, and his teammate can get in position to punish. So yeah, that's the basic setup from Complexity. So with that, they're pressuring 3 lanes simultaneously, and because of the IO, not that relocates up, but the threat that they can be in any place at any time is really strong. It's really, really strong. And that's kind of forcing the way that Optic Gaming are playing right now. Very safe. Very safe. They're only farming on 3 heroes. They're the 2 supports of Optic are not really, you know, able to farm, even if they've got, you know, neutral camps or whatever. And they're not pressuring all the lanes as well. So that's the basic difference. That's the basic difference. So we'll just watch Mu here while I read my notes, what I've got here. Okay, so Optic bring 4 heroes bot, and that's okay for Complexity. They're willing to lose one of their position 2s. Picat, you know, splits up top. He's still going for a Midas at 15 minutes. He's in a rough position. But look at the trade and what this is actually able to accomplish. Anytime the Optic have committed 4 heroes to go bot, and the trade is they're a long way from any objectives. They can't even get to the tower itself. There's been 5 damage on this tier 1 tower 15 minutes in. And in the meantime, IO Tiny is pushing this mid tower, you know, very, very, very quickly. Look at that. I think this tower was more or less like half HP. And he just walks away, you know, he just walks away. It was a bit of an awkward timing between the charge, so that got cancelled. But look at that. It's basically trading a kill on Mu for the mid tier 1 tower. I think Complexity are happy with that. Now, all this time, their Warlock is just farming, you know, very happily. Look at this. After taking the tier 1, this ward gives him vision on Picat. He's now isolated because 4 heroes have gone bot. Only Misery can really get there. So they get a kill on the IO, but it's a 2 for 1. And IO is an expendable piece as well. So 2 for 1 onto the limp Tiny. No more objectives come for this from any team. So that's just a really good illustration of the strength of Complexity's map control. The pressure that they're putting out is really, really cool. So at this point, I think Kyle has his Midas coming up. Yeah, he's got his Midas. Does Picat have his Midas? Alright, so Picat and Swindle get that Midas at roughly the same point, within a minute or 2 of each other. And that's pretty good for Complexity, I'll say that. So this ward expiring, this ward, this is an unusual ward. and a very defensive ward. But it's a good ward because PPD has understood the pressure they're under, so they want to see complexity when they go into these side positions. Who's where? So again, we're seeing now. I told you Kyle was going to switch out with Moo, and that's happened now. So 2-2-1 again. Tiny IO in one lane. You know, these two is playmaking heroes. Rocky's down, but Dream Coil is up. So Moo can contribute with Stampede. He's good to farm as a Centaur. You know, he farms quickly. He scales really well with the items. You know, if he gets a pipe and all that good stuff, he's good. So the smoke down a bot lane. I like this play a lot. They get a fresh ward. This one just expired before, so they get a fresh ward in jungle. They get another fresh ward here. And we saw how much value they can be. So PPD, the moment PPD shows as the 5, he's not only is he instantly dead, but he's farming in a place that's much more, you would say, closer to objectives. One easier to gank and closer to objectives. Kyle was farming out here aggressively initially, and then out here, which is close to an objective, but it's pretty far for Optic to have to go. So relocate not necessary, just a free kill on the puck for the puck, and no response. Where it gets really good for complexity is when they're making trades and there's not even anything in return. That's when they're really, really, really good for them. So 18 minutes, here we are. So yeah, Cole switched up the lanes. There's 19 minutes. 19 minutes is another engagement, so we're going to watch out for that. 19 minutes now. Yeah, so I think it's around the Centaur. So Centaur does show. And this is the two that really need to have to be able to punish this. Into Hood from Moo. So the AA Blast comes into good effect, but look at the response. With one TP and a relocate, heroes are already out for... Chessie's been ruptured here, so that was really a good result for Optic at that point. That was a 1-for-0 trade for Optic, so it's really good from them. But they're feeling the pressure, so they see something down, they see an out of position Warlock, and they feel like they need to get more done. But everything's on cooldown, and now they're under the tower. Kyle is pretty tanky, level 11 right now, compared to level 7 of PPD. So Dreamcore is still available. He's holding it so that the Spirit Breaker can't just TP. And then the turnaround for complexity. So now it's become a 2-for-1 trade. And importantly, no objectives. The only time they get a proactive kill, no objectives come from it. CCNC isn't able to threaten any tower, nor is Pikeout. But Pikeout has finally been able to get some space now. I should have had the net worth up a little bit earlier. Sorry, that's alright. So 21 minutes. There's another engagement that shows. Yeah, there's just another engagement now. So right now, Optic were when PPD was just a little closer to CCNC, they were in a bit of a 2-2-1 themselves. You know, two here, and one here. But the big difference is the aggressiveness of how they're able to farm. You know, they're not really pushing in lanes that hard. Although you wouldn't really, Zai's already pushing in top, so it's a bit of an unfair criticism. But my point is the same level of threat isn't quite there, and this is the difference between the draft, between the two drafts, you might say. The one thing that this draft from Optics does do better than Complexity, probably, in an ideal engagement for them, is 5 vs 5 fight. But they don't really get that. I want to show you just how CCNC does. This is the point that I was making. So the CCNC gets left alone bot, and Complexity know he's alone. They know he's alone because Zai is pushing top, and PPD is showing mid. So at maximum, 3 is going to be bot. And they think it's unlikely. And even if there were 3, they probably couldn't stop him. So they just go on him. They just dive him under tower. And now this is really good for Complexity, again, because of the tower. The objective is right there. And there's no counterplay. There's no counterplay on the top tower, there's no counterplay on the mid tower. CCC doesn't have a very strong series, but is put in rough positions. Difference in level of farm for supports another team is pretty big, really big. You know, Zfreek is only 500 above of Misery, his direct opponent, you'd say. But the difference is between Kyle and PPD is pretty huge. Levels on supports. If you can get early level 2 ults, you can get full levels in all your abilities. That's really huge. So this is the invis rune from Rue, allowing it to scout this out. Optic aren't entirely sure just where Complexity are right now. Complexity don't have a very good Roche team. That is the one obvious glaring weakness of the draft. They don't really take Roche very well. So this is what something like Medallion from Centaur is useful for. So if Pycat was a bit stronger, and he hasn't hit his timing yet, so when he gets Radiance or something, is when Optic would really want to be able to take that fight, that 5-1 fight that I mentioned that they'd want to take. So they're probably right to be, you call it passive until then. But again, farming with 5 heroes and farming with 2 and 3, maximum 4 at a time. Big difference in the grand scheme. 6k lead already. And the reason I think Limp and Zfreek are able to go alone here is just because of the ability to defensively relocate as well. At worst, they're going to lose an eye, so that's quite fun. And this is a point where look at the immediate counterplay. Anytime that Optic group up so that they have the potential to kill, to get a guaranteed kill off, they lose a tower for it straight up, and then Pycat shows top, and they're immediately punished. The trap is immediately sprung. So Optic have lost their tower, and they've lost a hero, and they're getting out farmed. Really rough. This game is fantastic for Complexity because it's a tactical what would you call it? It's a tactical domination. So this is 25 minutes now. So with this 8k gold lead, it's now that 5 vs 5 team fight is looking pretty rough. So Limp, this is the only time that Complexity have actually looked to engage as a 5 vs 5. And Zai gets a little bit out of position. I don't think he was quite expecting the toss play, which is pretty cool. And with an over-farmed level 14 Warlock, we're not going to see it there, but it's not. The threat of the Golem prevents any counter initiation. Alright, compare that to what level 9 PBD can put out right now. So with that Darkseer kill, he's used his ult, and Complexity are able to take another trade for nothing. No counterplay, no return. Gold lead at 9,000 from 8 now, and 11k with that tower actually. 10k, whatever. But yeah, so the important thing to enable a lot of these trades was actually shutting down the Bloodseeker early, and it's going to continue again. I think, yeah, it was a ward actually put here. I think specifically for this kind of thing to happen. But you know, again, the power of relocate, man. Power of relocate is just huge. So getting on top of Pikeette early meant that, you know, Optic weren't really able to take those 5v5 fights, and it forced them into split pushing a little bit more than they wanted to, which has been super hard punish. It's not quite English there. It's been punished super hard by Complexity, the IO. And now they can take this Roche fight, right? You know, this is never in a million years did Optic draft to let this happen, but it has because of the way the game's developed. You know, that strong bot lane for Complexity, and that non-greedy safe laner from Chessie really opened the door up. So yeah, look, immediately call it back to the 2-2-1 kind of thing, and it's pretty awkward for Optic. How do you counterplay that? How do you distribute farm? Misery's gone off to farm a small camp under water division. CC and Pikeette sharing farm mid. Zai is, you know, reduced to pushing out creep waves under his tower, compared to farming on 5 heroes, or at least 4. So it's worth it. I think it's interesting to point out the way Kyle's Midas has worked out so far. It basically hasn't and won't give him many items, but what it really does is secure his level progression. And for a hero like Warlock, that's pretty important, right? The golems especially, there's a huge difference in impact between the level 1 and level 3 golems, so that's pretty good. PP&D and Swindle also know each other, I think, pretty well, or at least know their warding pretty well, so it's good. You know, you could probably do a video just looking at the warding, you know, between these two, but I won't get too much into that. But yeah, look, at this point, you know, I think Optic have made the good read. We have Radiance on the Bloodseeker. Let's just play as 5. I don't think your PPD you could imagine saying, let's just not. Let's do it. We're strong. So 5 heroes onto Mu, and that's a good trade they can get. They'll also get a tower out of that. However, they'll lose top tier 2, and Cole are gonna, like, this is very similar to what happened about 10 or 15 minutes ago, when Cole got a very similar kill onto Mu down here, and they couldn't push the tier 1. Now, and in response, they lost their tier 1 mid. Now, however, it's the tier 3 that they've just taken 1,000 damage on, and the tier 2 as well that they're losing top. So Limp is being aggro safely because it's got the Aegis here. There's a sick Shadow Amulet play between the brothers there. If I don't want to go back to point that out, you can check that out on the replay if you so desire. So nice play from Limp. And And they'll get a Warlock, and they'll get the Golem as well for all those quick TPs. So complexity of trading 1000 damage for a Warlock in the ult. And that's probably okay, you can do that. Yeah, they still have this 11,000 gold lead, they still have Aegis. But it favors, you know, it favors on gold, Optic. However, you know, tier 3 damage is tier 3 damage, you know. For a tiny 1000, you know, that can make your racks that much more vulnerable, so it's 50-50. Anyway, so we're 30 minutes in now. I think CCNC has his BKB. Yeah, he's got his BKB now. So this is the big thing that enables the team fighting from Optic. BKBs on CCNC, and so they want a BKB on Pycat. Now it's very hard for very hard to gank Chessie. So he's being able to just push out top with impunity, and yeah, this is when I say CCNC had a pretty rough series. You know, I talked about the gank bot. You know, I talked about the lane, and this is another moment where it just against the DD, Tiny, and the Sentinel now with Blink Dagger. His team can't really help him. He's relying on his nobody's showing mid, but he's relying on his timing, his reflexes to get his BKB off in time, and he just doesn't quite get that. They lose CCNC right in front of their tier 3. Now, even in slow-mo, you see what an AC Ags overcharged Tiny is going to be able to do, right? Limpers like, screw your cold feet. I'm just going to hit tower. Now, immediately after, I want to pause because it's going to take more than, it's going to take 30 seconds to say. Immediately after this, there's nothing to stop Limp going straight for bot racks. So I really don't understand CCNC's decision not to buy back for this mid racks, and to buy back for the second racks. The only way you could feasibly see a reason is he's waiting for initiation to come out, or he's waiting for from either team really. But now that he buybacks with the misery charge onto Io, but he's already lost 1 racks, and I feel like that could have probably been avoided. Anyway, so there's no mana on Zfreek, so no relocate now. Really good for Optic Gaming now. You know, for the first time they actually get a little bit of a, you know, a hero trade that's favourable, even if they lost mid-racks in a buyback. But that fight there and the clean-up kill onto Warlock shows you that they can still have some threat, even 15k down, just because they've got very strong yeah, they've still got strong heroes in the Bloodseeker. Naturally, innately strong heroes is the words that I'm looking for in the Bloodseeker and the Razor. Anyway, so that's Limp's second death. We're gonna fast forward a little bit here, because most of the match tactically has been documented. Pycat gets his first BKB now as well. Just gonna see the Tiny here, also going for BKB. Fast forward this a little bit, so another DD comes out. Ooh. Yep. So this is what we want to see. So Optic want another one of those engagements. They're still pretty desperate as far as map control goes. They're still losing out on territory slowly and surely, very steadily. So they're seeing a smoke. They don't want... Roshan may respawn in a minute, but they just want to see if they can get some wards up and take a favourable engagement. And look what happens. So they find the Warlock, and they're able to get him. Moo goes in, Golem gets dropped, but look what's happening bot. Boom! Relocate out, gone. Look what's happening top. Jesse's already there. You know, now they're two racks down. They've Complexity have traded 2 heroes and their ults for Arax. You know, Spirit Breaker just gets cleaned up there against the DD Tiny. And CCNC without his BK. Oh, he does have his BK, but he just didn't use it. Yeah, he just didn't use it. You know, Tiny didn't have to use his BKB, you know? That shows you just how rough it was for Optic, and you completely understand the early GG now. Well, not the early, but the GG call. So it's a very... You call this a comprehensive victory. The Complexity won the lanes. They completely dominated the map, and they just took trades with very little return all through the game, consistently strong. It's a tactical outclass, I think, and really, really impressive. So that settles that game. Moving on to the next one. After witnessing this, you would think first ban, like you do against Liquid, scratch off the IO, ban the IO. I do not want to play against IO. However, this is PPD we're talking about. And PPD, like Puppy, is a lower bracket specialist, and he thinks if he thinks he can beat a strat, he's gonna take it around 2. So that's exactly what he does. Spoiler alert here. And unfortunately for him, despite the adjustments he makes, the same thing pretty much happens. It's almost the same draft. For Complexity. They get the Warlock and the Iotani, but now they get the Bloodseeker and they get the Beastmaster. The Beastmaster is a hero I think naturally fits into this draft really well. So yeah, instead of... Basic story for this is instead of Pycat losing his lane to the Warlock +1, and it is Kyle laning with the offlaner again, this time in the Beastmaster. Instead of Pycat being put in that unwinnable situation, PPD as the Ancient Apparition and Zai bot lane lose out, and Zai is the one that gets shafted this game. And as a Timbersaw, he has even less comeback potential than the Bloodseeker. So that's a little bit of the context of this game. I didn't want to tell you too much. I may have, but I haven't really talked about the adjustments that Optic make and why they think they're going to be successful. So I already mentioned, you know, the obvious when going up. If you want to win going up against a very strong team who have one in particular very strong strat, you want to ban it. I think again the only reason PPD doesn't ban it is because he wants to play against it. He wants to figure them out. Having 2 games with different approaches is going to give you much more to go on. So we're going to fast forward a little bit through the draft. So instead of the Spirit Breaker, which has not been banned from Complexity, only carries again, it's the Earthshaker. So a little bit more team fight, a little bit more AoE. Yeah. Fast forward just a little bit again. So I believe this is just the Warlock pick, but they take a million years to do it. So, you know, I think Complexity takes so long to pick the Warlock there is because they're wondering what does PPD up his sleeve that he thinks he can beat us with. You know, this is the obvious thing for us to do, but are we falling into a trap? So PPD has taken the puck from Complexity and he's picked a Weaver. Weaver, much harder to pressure in lane than a Bloodseeker. Much more evasive. And you assume, in the draft, I think it's safe to assume that it's going to be a puck at Weaver, and it's, you know, it is. But the point is, I think it's safe to assume from the draft. Puck has been for North American teams, EG in particular, a nice pick for them because they can run it off lane and mid lane. I haven't seen Zai play puck in a professional game. You know, I'm sure the man could, but it is a CCNC puck this game. So a nice ban from Complexity. They probably, I think Dai would have picked the draft they could for the laning prowess, if nothing else. The early pressure. It's a very similar draft in that both teams are looking at this saying, we want to have momentum, we want to win lanes, and we want to dominate from there. So this is really interesting from PPD as drafter. Last picking Zai Timbersaw. Now you would think the obvious matchup for him is against a Beastmaster, right? You know, reactive armor very good against summons, Beastmaster summons. Beastmasters don't stereotypically run Necrobook this game, this patch, or at least last few weeks. So again, a worse hero against Timbersaw, you just like damage. Yeah. So I think that's the obvious, that's the matchup they want, right? That's what it's intended for. And then Weaver will be up against... Honestly, Weaver's not bad against Beastmaster either. You know, they're good at trading against him. So Monkey King ban. I think it's interesting that the Monkey King ban, it's not showing it anymore because the draft is finished. But the Monkey King ban coming out from PPD. So again, I think that makes me think that the Monkey King ban is protecting the Zai pick, the Zai Timbersaw. So that makes me think they expect this last pick to be the hero that Zai's up against. They don't expect Moo Beastmaster to be up against Zai. There's a bit of lane musical chairs here. I'm just going to check if I haven't missed anything here. Yeah, so I actually have. So the overall approaches and adjustments that if it will, I hope it'll show me the heroes here. Yeah, it's just nice to look at. So the overall strategical approach I think PPD has made is on individual heroes. Basically, the overall strategy is the same when lanes dominate, but the heroes are picked more. They're doing the same thing, but they pick better heroes for it. Basically, these heroes, these core heroes from Optic Gaming, are pretty evasive, pretty hard to gank. You know, they've got Raw, they've got Tiny, and now they've got Bloodseeker Rupture, but these three heroes are basically, they want to be able to do what they couldn't last game. They want to send a hero down a lane, push it out without getting absolutely punished for it, right? I think that's the basic idea. They've tried to get heroes for each core to be able to do that. You know, they can basically. Last game they wanted to be able to shut down split push, but they couldn't really split push themselves, and especially they didn't have building threat. Now they also don't have building threat this game, really. None of these heroes are famed for their ability to hit buildings. You know, unlike a Tiny or a Beastmaster, for example. So yeah, that's the basic difference between the drafts here. Complexity, I think it's almost identical. You know, 3 of the 5 same heroes, and two pretty similar. You know, if Centaur was perhaps almost the perfect hero for his role, Beastmaster is pretty good too. And Chessie is, you know, if you can get away with the lane, unlike Pycat last time, it's good to have a Bloodseeker on your team. So the lanes this game are a lot more important. Well, look, they're just as important, I should say, but more happens. And the lanes are more important in how this game turns out. Last time they're just trading, and only Pycat really gets shafted. Then this game they're quite unfavourable. And we're gonna look at bot almost exclusively. We're just gonna check in with other lanes. So a little bit of musical chairs. If I can pause. So Ward comes out here. Not entirely sure what CNC is picking out here. So Zai is set to lane top, and Pycat is set to lane bot. Now, is there a ward that pings out Moo here? No, Moo's pinging out, nobody's there. However, the call. Right, so I think this ward sees the Weaver, and that's when the call happens. So Chessie gets put in the solo lane now against Moo. They want to get... I'm not entirely sure what each team is looking for, but basically this is how it goes. Chessie goes up against... against a Timbersaw. It's pretty hard for a Timbersaw to CS against a Bloodseeker. And now Moo is going bot. Now look what happens here. So just gonna pause here. So Pycat gets sent top, and Pycat's pretty good against you know, Weaver Bloodseeker is a favourable matchup for Weaver, because same against a Beastmaster. The hero just trades well against melees with no way to nuke or no way to stun. Anyway, so we're looking at bot lane because it's really important from this first minute to show you what happens. So these two are trading each other, and these two are trading with each other. But Shadow Word on the Beastmaster to enable him. So the 6 tangos, 2 shared on Zai, and he doesn't use them. So PPD can't really win against Warlock, even with a bit of Chilling Touch. Zai, level 1 reactive armor. He's got a Shallow Word on him now, and he's just tanking quite a bit. He goes back in, right, and is not eating a tango. This is the important bit. He's still not eating a tango, but he's tanking all this damage. And I think the Wild Axes level 1 really catch him off guard. But that is a first blood that is pretty avoidable, you would say. Most of that was Zai initiating trades because he thought he could tank it. And he's already TP'd once, so he has to walk back to base. And this is really, really inefficient for him. This hurts him a lot. He's losing out on a lot of XP. Mid lane, it's a bit of a 2-on-2 again. Puck is better than, you'd probably say better than a Razor for this. Maybe. I don't really know, honestly. But, yeah, pretty... Well, yeah, look, based off that, that little play on its own, Razor would have died there, so Puck is probably a decent hero for that. Anyway, as you can see, lane's already in well in Complexity's favour. Zai just gets level 2 now. Warlock and Beastmaster almost level 3 each, and Ancient Apparition has said, I cannot help you in this lane, I will go bot. I actually want to back up here because I missed something, and that was this ward blocking the camp. This is why PPD and Zai are trading, really. because they don't have the option of pulling, right? The courier at this stage is being reserved for mid lane, for at least I assume it is. So yeah, I think that's a nice ward, friend. Very hard to D-ward, I might add. You know, pretty hard to D-ward. Or at least reducing it to a 50-50. Anyway, so we're going to fast forward a little bit to get Zai back into the lane. He picks up the bounty rune actually. He would have been even further behind without the bounty. So at this point, Mu has got an Orb of Venom. So he's a pretty strong hero with Inner Beast, Orb of Venom to just beat the shit out of Timbersaw, right? Just hit him over and over and over and over. Hit him. Nice pull coming out from Kyle. And they just zone him, right? So Timbersaw is supposed to be able to hurt the Beastmaster. Not the case. Second death. Zai doesn't even get any of the XP from this count. And with clarity sustained, there's going to be more shadow words coming out. You know, doesn't even need to know because they've got the salve they've built for this. So Zai, now that was his level 2. You know, he didn't level Timber Chain to get out from that situation. Put one in Whirling Death for harass. So Zai is, I think, trying to get some cheap XP, and we'll share that with Kyle. Get the last sip, but shares it with Kyle. So just easy Shadow Word harass. You know, Shadow Word is an exceptionally good value spell for harass. So Zai, desperate for his level 3, his survivability basically almost goes up. I was about to say double, but it's more like goes up 60 or so %. He just wants level 3, and he will get that. But at the point he's got level 3, Mu is level 4, and Kyle is almost level 4 as well, in a 2v1 lane. This lane is so completely lost already that this can happen. Level 3, now 10 armor for Zai, but is it enough? Two Whirling Deaths onto Mu? He doesn't really care. He's got a Ring of Health, which is going to build into a Dominator, and Zai completely zoned out. And this helps Chessie quite a bit, because he's not having a great time. He had the lane against the Weaver is much better for him early levels than it is around level 5 and 6. Because of this, right? And I want to point out there's an Orb of Venom on Parkat too. And that's not really for the slow, that's for the harass, right? 15 magical damage through Poor Man's Shield. It's pretty good value. So Parkat zoned super hard, manages to get that CS because he's got a Quelling Blade and he's a badass. But you know, a rough lane for him. So at this point, there's some trading here, and it's a bit of a tri-lane versus tri-lane. This isn't really what a puck wants. There's no real space. There's no real lane for either of Optic supports to be in, and they kind of had this issue last game, and they kind of had this issue this game. And I think this is a big weakness of Ancient Apparition as a hero. If you can just bully him out of lane, it's a fantastic offensive weapon, but if you can bully him out of lane, you're far weak heroes. So anyway, there's a tri-lane versus tri-lane action, and this does not suit Puck or CC&C. There's a fight for top rune. CC&C just gets done by this ward a little bit, done by the over-aggression. So even with 3 heroes mid, 4 Optic Gaming, they lose out on these trades. Look at this tethered Tiny doing work. 2 for nothing. 2 for nothing in a tri-lane mid. And look at bot again. Look at bot again actually. So level 3 boars, this is the point where I think they actually do damage to Timbus or through PMS, right? They actually do damage to him now. So with Orb of Venom still, Moo hits pretty hard himself, and Zai just has to walk away. He still doesn't have this. The issue I have with this right here is that Zai's just put his 4th level into an extra point in Whirling Death. And he's just leveled it up there and used it because he thinks he's not going to die. But he's actually dying. He's actually just dead. Moo is committing super hard for it, and there's no counterplay because of what's happening mid. This is really, really good map awareness and team coordination from Complexity, by the way. Moo can't make this play if any of Optic actually respond to him. Pycat doesn't have a TP, and the other 2 supports are completely occupied. So, you know, credit to Complexity. Zai, his 2nd level of Whirling Death, he hasn't actually done himself any favors, and that's the big point that I want to make. It's fantastic play from Complexity to put him under this pressure, but with some precaution, Zai could have avoided a lot of it. He could have not died level 1, and he could have put a level into Timber Chain, but he did neither of those things. So he thought he'd be getting enough levels in reactive armor. At 3 levels of reactive armor, he's probably safe. He's actually safe at this stage, but it's too late. It's just a little bit too late, and the momentum is very much in Complexity's favor. So Moo with Primal Roar now. Excuse me. Moo with Primal Roar now. And Zai rightly sees that Moo can't kill him himself. However, with the magic damage of Fatal Bonds and Shadow Word, he can still die. So, you know, this is where I thought if Zai was level 7 there, or if he had any levels in Timber Chain, he's out of there. He's gone. He's fine. But he doesn't. He just doesn't. It's pretty bad for him. So we're going to look at mid now. So 3 heroes just sitting mid. 8 minutes in. PPD's just clocked at level 4. So they're not super strong. And Pycat makes the rotation for the Wisp. So 4 heroes diving mid. Chessie just with enough mana for Rupture. And he will rupture the puck. Pycat playing defensively now because he doesn't have mana. This is the only counterplay. This is the only play they had really to go hard mid. And they basically lose. They gain a puck. They don't gain any tower damage. They gain they gain a Wisp kill, and they lose a puck. So that's probably the worst trade hero-wise that Optic could make, and it's happened from their own initiation. So this is 3k gold lead at 9 minutes, but it's again pretty comprehensively Complexity this game. There's a lot of just good, solid, patient play. This ward just misses out, which is unfortunate for Kyle. I think he does die here to Pycat with the medallion. It's a lot of damage. Chessie not seeing what's coming, everybody missing. Wisely backs off. So finally, all it's taken is just one rotation, calculated from Zyla. All it's taken is one rotation, and Moo has been punished for his aggression. But to some degree, the damage is kind of done. If we bring up the net worth, there's still after that kill 2,000 gold difference between Mu and between Zai. And the space that's been given to other lanes is pretty big too. So unlike last game, this game the Bloodseeker has got a decent start. He's not behind. He's just kind of even with the... He's a little bit behind Weaver, but he's on an equal playing field. More importantly. So now bot lane can be pushed in. The smoke from Mu actually gets broken there, but not seen. And I'm going to slow-mo this replay to show you what happens. But this again is just really, really good trades for complexity. Pikecat TPs into, which means more space for top lane, less pressure on the Bloodseeker. But he dies too. 3 cores, the 3 cores of Optic Gaming. Punished. And I think Misery dies here too. Tries to deny the Ancients, but he just can't get it. It's actually 4. 4 for 1. And does Limp get the tower? We'll look at that in a second. I want to show what actually happens with Puck here. So Puck picked for his ability to survive against a tiny IO lane. This he would have to be the hero CC and says, give me this hero against this lane. So he wants to orb, but the interrupt comes out from Tiny, and I'll show you one more time so you can see for certain. The orb actually fades out. The orb fades out by the time he comes down from the toss. So at this point he's still trying to avoid the raw. If he goes here he's going to get rawed. And now it's out, he's come down and the orb is out. So CNC, you're fucked. Zai's come in because there's no point in Zai, farming bot lane if the rest of his team is getting, ganked and run over. So he does the right thing, comes in. But he gets rawed instead, and he's rawed right in front of a Tiny. Tiny cleans him up. So what happens after this with Pikecat is Pikecat has enough sticks for a time lapse, but he just seems to really underestimate the damage that comes out. It's as simple as that. This Tiny is just friggin' huge, right? This Tiny is just huge. Like, level 10 at 11 minutes now, when it was basically a tri-lane versus tri-lane at times. So that's a Blink Dagger. Chessie's he's not going catch up Mutters, he's going for items that he can pressure with and be strong early with. Same as Mu. At this point in the game last time, Kyle went off and farmed the lane by himself. So this is some pretty cool play from both teams. I actually want to show you this specifically. I was just consulting notes. So Kyle sees this coming. He's smoked up. Yeah, somewhere. Oh, he gets scattered out actually. Kyle gets scattered out. He smokes. Yeah, he smokes when he's right here, because he thinks that there's no ward here because of this, but there is. Just misses it. He's gonna kick himself in the replay. Anyway, yep. So the Radiant scan scouts him out, and this is what Pikeat's checking out. Where is he? What's he doing? Now these guys smoked out well behind here. So Chessie thinks he's safe. Kyle's telling him that he's safe, but he's not. So this is a really heads up play from Optic Gaming. Really good map read. And it's also one of those ganks that's going to lead somewhere. They could get a mid tower out of that. However, the same thing happens mid. Kyle still with that same smoke. Nighttime, so I'll show you the Radiant vision here. So Tiny pushes in mid lane. Bot lane's being pushed in consistently by his Beastmaster. So they see Tiny going in here. That's really the only indication that they have, besides nobody else is top. And Zai just gets wrecked. Seen by this Hawk. Really good Hawk usage. You know, this kind of area is pretty good, even with reduced nighttime vision. So Zai, you know, senses danger, but the danger senses him first. So Beastmaster able to pressure a tower. You know, Limp pressuring a tower again. It's not going to be a tower trade, but you know, tower damage is being traded. Yeah. So Zai once again goes down, and this is, I think this is a relocate, yeah? So this is a very similar play. CCNC died like this last time. So I think Optic are more prepared for it. You know, really good, again, Hawk vision. I think this came from bot. Unfortunate for Zfreek that he gets blasted and cold fitted, so there will be a trade coming up. However, this is a trade that Complexity are more than happy to make. You know, Zfreek's died a couple of times making these plays, but he's more than happy to do that if it means towers and a kill on a core and a kill on the mid. So straight afterwards, instead of going to top, Complexity go for mid lane. They want more. They want more towers. So good play from there. And this is again similar drafts from both teams, and it's, you know, Optic Gaming basically has said to themselves, our strat wasn't bad last time, our execution was. And this time their execution is actually arguably worse, right? And you see that it's worse, and it really what is the word? It starts with E. I'm having a horrible mental blank. So Pike out, Scouts out, he survives this time. It exacerbates their draft issues, that's the word I'm looking for. So this Hawk didn't see the, again, really good Hawk usage, this is where you want your Hawk to be. It didn't see the smoke come in, but if it was to break, it would be right there. Anyway. So yeah, I'm saying it's, the laning issues exacerbate the drafting map control issues that this style has into the IO, and that is, you see top when Pikeat was going on Chessie here, Chessie could just TP, and Pikeat couldn't threaten tower. You know, 100 damage on this tower. You know, really unfortunate. I want to see this from his perspective, actually. So CCNC sniffs out some danger, but it's just too late. So yeah, look, again, it's a bit of a 2-1-2 from Complexity. This time Chessie is just playing the D pusher, you would say. Pretty good hero to D-push with Blood, right? But where is the Night Stalker or Beastmaster kind of hero? Where is A, the Vision hero for Optic Gaming, and B, where is the Tower Threat hero, right? They've kind of picked three core heroes that, oh, this is a really sad play from CCNC. If he was struggling before, this is when you really know the well played's coming out from Kyle. Tell you everything. They really do. Yeah, CCNC, not a good series. He just didn't play well. Put under a lot of pressure, and didn't show his best form. Anyway, the draft issue that I wanted to point out was that these three core heroes basically kind of do the same thing, or they're intended to do the same thing. Be a really obnoxious, ungankable You want to be an ungankable hero that can just de-push lanes, that can walk into a lane and not be afraid that Tiny's gonna absolutely wipe the floor with him. Now what happens, the reason that this is actually such a sad play from CCNC is because it's so avoidable. What should be happening here, and what bloody replay bugs, is the orb comes out, Jaunt, Waning Rift, immediately blink. But watch what happens. Instead of blinking, off cooldown, he just right clicks the Tiny. And now with orb down and blink down, only level 2 phase shift, right? Big difference, huge difference between 1.5 seconds at level 2 and 3.25 at level 4. This is... Limp isn't that higher level than CCNC until now. But, you know, the only reason I could ever see that, like, ever see that going differently in CCNC's mind is if he thought he was higher level and the high level phase shift. But I don't want to harp on that one play too much, but it really shows that Optic are under a lot of pressure that probably CCNC is a young player in the team not used to being under. So there's some cracks for me. And now 16 minutes in, 6k net worth difference, and as you can see, big difference in farm distribution. So hero able to farm top, hero farming jungle, and off the map too. Beastmaster having threat off the map. If you can't see him, he's threatening you, even if he's actually not. Able to roam, and this tiny IO just completely taking over this part of the map, but also being able to retain here. So at this point, Optic Gaming are basically limited into this part of the thing, this little third and a little bit less. You know, less than a third of a map is safe for them if you watch my mouse here, and that's kind of where they're warding. You know, this is just under tower, but the limit of their territory basically extends from here down, maybe even a bit left. You know, this camp isn't safe for them. You know, Zide dies here, Zide dies here. This camp isn't really safe. You know, the absolute extent all they've got is these 3 neutral camps. And this ward is really good because it's a lot of vision in that territory. So, I'm going to consult my notes here. Let's see where we are moving on. So it's 18 minutes now. So coming up, there's a reload team fight. So we're going to wait to see how that develops. So Weaver, not at Lincoln's yet, but a hero that they can say, go push this lane. And our Hood first from Timbersaw, which should, in theory, enable him to say, go push this lane without dying. You know, if PPD shows that he's dead, but Timbersaw, he lives. So the smoke play comes out, and I like this a lot. The smoke play comes out top here, because Zai's just shown bot, and Misery has been showing bot, pushing out bot. So Complexity think there's going to be 3 heroes top, you know? These 2, Timbersaw, Earthshaker can't come top, so the smoke comes out, really good, and this is now a 5 versus 3. The moment I pointed out the map territory that each team was controlling, the first moment that Optic are overstepping that, they're absolutely punished. Absolutely punished. So the Raw, I'm going to show one more time. Raw comes out onto Puck. He sees the PPD AA, but the Puck is the high value kill, and the high value for the stun to go on. So the reload comes out onto AA. And now, you know, how do you deal with this from this point as Optic Gaming? How do you deal with that? You know, I'll tell you, you can't. You just can't. This is a tactical masterclass from Kyle, mate. It's actually beautiful to see him do this. I don't know if it's going to translate into form come the majors and minors tournaments themselves, but But God, it's good to see it in the qualifiers. Surely PPD is got an answer to it by then, I'll say that. Anyway, so Zai pushing up bot, Moo pushing in mid, Limp now pushing in top, and now with this Aegis is going to facilitate some more territorial acquisitions for Complexity. So really good aggressive wards coming out. This was the only area that Optic Gaming were even remotely controlling. And now these wards threaten that. The Aegis Limp wanted to push this tower, but the rest of his team isn't in position to back him up, so he backs up. And this is really good play from Optic Gaming. They don't want to take a fight into Tiny around this area, because if they lose taking a fight here, if they lose taking a fight anywhere here, they're going to lose all their towers, and they're going to probably lose the racks. So they try to force a reaction top. They don't necessarily want to take a team fight straight up, because they're so far behind, 10k gold, that they might just straight up lose it. But if they can force TPs like this, if they can force a reaction, then it prevents Complexity from being able to threaten the buildings that they want to defend. So it's proactive defense, right? They're not waiting until they're at the door, they're preventing them from getting to the door. So it's really good. So now that Complexity are pushed in bot lane and pushed in mid lane, Optic Gaming themselves want to defend, and despite their best efforts, the 5-man show or the 4-man show from Complexity is enough to force heroes back, and they are in fact going to, with this really good warding, informing for them. Look at this fucking, it really is a zookeeper these days. Yeah, look, they're gonna, this is the reload fight that I wanted. So Misery just shows a little bit of impatience perhaps, but he just shows, so they wanna get this tier 1 while they can, right? The only other heroes that I'll show you Radiant Vision actually, because I think this is why Misery is so emboldened to do this. So Tiny and Beastmaster and IO top, Radiant don't think the Complexity are going to defend this, but aha, relocate, they're there. You know, preemptive TP from Warlock, so he's there 10 seconds beforehand. Boom. You know, Misery instantly gone. CCNC will just get away, I think. But you know, this tower stays up. This tower goes down. Misery's dead. You know, just a series of good trades for Complexity. Not relenting. So relocate back up top. Barely missing a pace here. And what are Optic Gaming able to do about this? The answer's not much. The answer's nothing. Right. Yeah. You know, Pike out not completed Lincolns yet. Wait, raw? Yeah, I'll show you this. So yeah, look, I told you nothing. And that's because they can't do anything. You know? The Necro book actually does come out for Moo, which I think is a good call. But yeah, look, the moment Zai actually shows up, he's gone. So again, kill, I think. No, they don't get the. Oh, they get Carl. They don't get Zfreek. So they Pikecat and CCNC go onto Carl here, and they do manage to get him. But you're trading again a support for your core in Zai. That's some pretty nice cheeky puck play. But more importantly, I've talked about hero trades right then. More importantly, you've traded, or you've lost, you haven't traded, you've just lost your tier 1, your tier 2, and your tier 2. And now that 6k gold lead became a 10k gold lead, became a 14k gold lead. And at this stage, it's looking harder and harder and harder for Optic Gaming to come back. There's a Radiance now on the Bloodseeker. Full Necro 3 from Moo. And this is the only real-time... Oh, one of the rare times. He's done it a couple of times. And he hasn't really been punished too much for it. He died once down bot tier 2 onto Zai. And got punished. And now the warding from this nice warding in particular. This deep ward enables... I'll show you as it happens. This ward here scouts out Beastmaster, and this ward here scouts out the Bloodseeker. So Optic Gaming see this opportunity and go for it. Relocate comes out, but it's a little bit too little too late. Excuse me, too out of position. So Optic Gaming they've had their misplays, as has Complexity, but they're not, the players themselves aren't playing that badly. This isn't about execution nearly past the laning stage. They played fine. This isn't about execution past the laning stage as much as it's about tactics. And really, really solid tactics from Complexity. Now that they've got map control, this Tiny is able to really farm quickly. Radiance Bloodseeker farms real quickly. You know, even Beastmaster farms real quickly when he's not getting picked off. You know. So, gonna hold onto Limp here while I consult notes. So we're at 24 minutes. Yeah, it's about to end real soon. It's about to end real soon. So, yeah, I mentioned warding just before. I'll pause it here because this is going to be the last fight of the game. I mentioned warding before. Again, the PPD's wards this game, I think all during both series have actually been very good. Where the initiations and the outmaneuvering has come from has been predominantly the IO, and this game, the Beastmaster. This game, the Beastmaster Hawks, I think were exceptionally good. Not a lot came from them, but they were at the right places at the right times, and that's, you know, all you want. So the smoke comes out from Complexity. One of the rare times now they're looking to 5-man fight, and I think they're able to do this because Pycat Weaver is showing top as he has been all game. So this is, I don't think the Aegis is on. No, Roche isn't up yet. But yeah, look, DD Tiny is pretty fucking strong. Pretty fucking strong. Doesn't need level 20. What does he even get? Yeah, level 20 stats are pretty average. So we're going to show you this super slow-mo because this is a fantastic fight. So this is a bait. This is an absolute bait call from Kyle to Chessie, saying show mid and bait. If you get echoed, it's on cooldown, whatever. If they go on you, doesn't matter. We're going to clean up. And Optic Gaming take it. They don't see anybody on the map until Chessie shows up. And look at that. Look at the damage come out from that 4-man rock. Raw not necessary. Just tiny stun. Just absolutely blown up. And the well playeds come out from Kyle, and I love that. Alright, so form 4 down. That's the pick off that Complexity were looking for. Now they can go high ground. And it's game. Straight onto the tier 4s, push that advantage. GG, thanks for coming. Appreciate the competition. So that was 25 minutes. Last game worked out to be 35. Yeah, so this is kind of, this series was 2 versions of the same game. And an absolutely comprehensive victory for Complexity both times. And that's not an overstatement. It really was comprehensive. You know, the execution in the laning stage actually got worse, or better for Complexity, or worse for Optic Gaming. I'm not good with the Optic Gaming calls just yet. It's Dota and Optic Gaming haven't quite meshed in my head just yet. Um, but yeah, look. So lessons to learn from this game, things to take into the next game or next games from these two teams is I really think the most obvious one is PPD. Just ban the fucking IO, mate. Just ban the IO. If you come out with something that's got an answer to it, that doesn't involve a Timbersaw, I'd love to see it. But until you have your master plan ready and you want to win that game, ban the IO. Zfreek IO limp tiny too strong, too strong. I haven't seen a lot of complexity at the moment, but they're playing well. I don't know what other strats they've got available. So this game, this series, as far as predictions, as far as impacting predictions for the majors and the minors, wouldn't make too much of it. Honestly, wouldn't make too much of it. I think this was an experimental game from PBD a little bit. They're going to as their newly formed team plays together more, they're going to develop their own ideas and synergy much better, and it's going to manifest itself into a different team than it was during this series for sure. So yeah, look, it's this game. What it really was good for was just a clinic illustration of IO gaming, IO tiny gaming. IO has traditionally been a European stalwart. Teams like Liquid have valued the IO, and if Complexity have learnt that lesson and have adopted that themselves, not only does it speak to their critical prowess and their ability to learn, but maybe this is one of those things that can enable them to make the step up into a regular LAN team, and a LAN team that's competing for titles. So they're one to watch. They really want to watch. Both these teams are honestly ones to watch. As far as the North American scene, it's for the first time in a long time. I think EG are not the guaranteed best team in North America. These two teams are competing for it, along with the rest of the pack. So, place to watch. But yeah, look, I think that covers everything I wanted to talk about. It's been a pleasure dissecting these really really good two teams. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and stick around for more content to come.